Can you lay out in detail what effect you are seeing that the Omicron variant is having on the ports? And kind of what are you seeing? What are you hearing from officials?
In the very short term, there have been some increased outages from longshore workers and others. So far, that has not disrupted operations. As you saw early in the pandemic, there are procedures in place in terms of personal protective equipment and safety measures for the workers at the ports, and those will be ratcheted up as needed. But as we stand here today, the ports and the supply chains are operating at record levels.
Okay, and then I guess just my broader question, in the view of the supply chain task force, have these supply chain pressures peaked?
It's hard to tell if the supply chain pressures have peaked. I think what is clear is the pandemic laid bare what was the underlying reality, which was the supply chain was stressed even before the pandemic. And we clearly have changes to make to build a more durable, resilient supply chain. One of the great things that's happened is with the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure law, some of the physical infrastructure upgrades to infrastructure that was built by your parents and grandparents can actually be updated through that infrastructure program.
Trevor?
I think one of the questions that's come up from the trucking industry is that whether vaccine mandates are restricting worker supply in that area. Is that something that you've seen? Is that still a concern?
Well, first, we know that vaccines work, and with 200 million Americans vaccinated, it's a big step forward throughout the supply chain, whether it's truckers, longshore workers, distribution centers, or any other part of the supply chain. We're working hard towards vaccination, which is the real protection for Americans. Going forward, we've been working with individual industries to make it as easy as possible to get vaccinated.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. The Virginia Department of Health said on Tuesday that it's experiencing supply chain issues with getting COVID-19 tests, rapid tests. Can you speak to what's being done to address that issue, not just in Virginia, but all across the country? And do you anticipate it being a problem in terms of getting the 500 million tests the president wants to bring on?
Well, first, I think what that illustrates is that it's the global supply chain, and it's a global COVID issue that's affecting all countries. We have a procedure in place to prioritize medical supplies as needed. If you'll see in today's White House blog that there's an example of within the last week of medical supplies being prioritized by the ocean carrier, by the longshoremen, the railroads, the terminal operators to move those supplies. We're working closely with the COVID task force as they designate those priorities. We have a procedure in place starting with the place of manufacture of those medical supplies to identify them early as they're put in containers, make sure those containers are separately identified, are what we call block stowed in a position on a ship where they can be the first off, and then are prioritized for unloading. That would have to happen, obviously, on a priority basis.
Do you anticipate that the distribution of the 500 billion tests the president is looking to bring online could be slowed down?
We're working hard to make sure that those tests are there when they're needed. And together, this supply chain, with the millions of people that work on it, have met the challenges so far. We expect to continue to do that.